The session started last month. Also, you can talk to us on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 2. Now joining us this morning, familiar faces, Dr. Isaac Hassan, a policy and governance expert. Also next to him is Sami Meli, a political analyst. And then finally, we do have Oscar Omondi, a political analyst as well. Let me start with you, Doc. You have been following keenly this particular interviews that have been happening there at Edge Convention Center at South Sea. Let me get your general views on the interviews.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abdiaziz. I thank everybody and the viewers for the opportunity. I think for the last 2 weeks, we have been having closely every day, with the exception of the weekends, interviews going on our TVs, and mainly the contentious commission, IBC, which we suspected that if this continue up to today without having commissioners, then we are likely to go into constitutional crisis. And of course, the 2027 election will be at stake. Coming to the interviews, I think like any other interview, it has ups and downs. You'll see some critics from different quarters supporting or underscoring individual candidates. But as I said earlier on, interviews are not examinations. Interviews is to check an individual whether he understands the task ahead of him and the value he will add into the institutions he's been interviewed for. On that note, you'll find others who are well established in their understanding of the role, and you will find others who are Kenyans, normal Kenyans, who are looking for jobs, but perhaps they are not, they are not significantly proving that they understand the role they are bidding for. But generally, I think the panelists are also slightly biased in some cases, where you will find some of the people are driven to be asked political questions. You know, political questions in an institution like IEBC, other than probably being asked how are you going to balance a situation where there is a political crisis and it is IEBC to make the decision, that probably is something that can lead someone to give a proper answer. But it looks like sometimes they're also overwhelmed, and they start asking some critics questions which are similar to critics. But I tend to think now everything is going on, it's shaping. If you ask the public opinion, they know who will be their commissioners. If you ask some of us, we know who are likely to be the commissioners. But again, the bottom line remains with the political wing, who has all ensured that their interests are addressed. And that's why the panel is collected from different quarters to make sure that balancing is achieved in the appointment of the commissioners. So I tend to think the commissioners, the only time we are able to say that this specific person has been picked on merit or not is when the panelists submit the final list or recommendation to the president. And that's the right time for us to say, hey, I thought this was much composed, and this was much experienced, this was much realistic for him to be or her to be given this position. But until then, let's assume these are still panelists searching for commissioners, and we hope that they search for the best commissioners that will going to serve the interest of Kenyans during the electionary process, but not interest of politicians who will not going to benefit the society, as we have seen in many of politicians.
Okay. Meli, your thoughts?
Yeah, the IBC interviews have been going on so well. As Daktari has said it, at some point you would see panelists smiling back at the candidates. They look like they're asking friendly questions, and to others, they become tough on them. I thought their previous experiences in other commissions or in other institutions may not be relevant, especially to how they handle IBC. Remember, IBC has a clear set roles and rules on how things are done. The 7 commissioners coming into office and their chair will usher in a new phase in Kenya, whereby since the last general election, we have not had a functional commission. And remember, IBC cannot function on its own with the secretariat in place. Remember, the secretariat is there, but yes, the commissioners are not there. This will guarantee the constituencies and the wards that don't have representation at the moment. Remember, if this thing is dragged the way it is going and seeking extensions and extensions, it will make, it becomes unfair to some people who don't have representation. We need this concluded as soon as possible. The functional IBC, remember, there is the recruitment of voters, which should take effect, the revision of the voters register, removing the dead voters and replacing them with the young people. I was expecting, since this was a position that was, there are several positions that were vacant. The Gen Z who are saying that they are learned, they should have applied, even if it is trying, and get shortlisted. Remember, around, more people applied, but a few are chosen. Even though the bar is set high by the Constitution and the subsequent rules on who can chair, who can be a member of the commission, but I know that trying is not bad for those young people, because we should have seen them doing the interviews.
But merely point of correction, because yes, they said there is a case where 3 petitioners have moved to court. They were saying that they had applied. In terms of the shortlisting,
perhaps they couldn't qualify, especially on the expertise and the experience they have. Remember, even if you are learned and you have not experienced, you have not shown your expertise in a certain field where you have practically done it. You see, we don't want trial and error. At the end of the day, in 2027, we have problems, especially when announcing election results. Remember, this is the heart of the nation, where actually IEBC is actually second best commission, whereby it makes decisions that affect directly the life of Kenyans. By the way they conduct their elections. They can either build this country and or destroy it in the way they handle things. Remember, the young people also are agitating for a fresh start in this country, or a better leadership. And therefore, the formation of IEBC and the reconstitution of it should give us the best of the best, people with good attitude, especially and a team, people who will work as a team. In as much as I said their experience is not very necessary, the attitude that somebody comes with to a workplace or to a commission is very important, to see even their temperaments, if they are the people, or the people, are they team people who can marshal a team, or are we going to see a Cherera 4 break away from the same commission that we are constituting? So remember, even from the 7 who will be appointed, there will be a deputy or a vice chair that will come from the 7. So it gives us a very clear roadmap to what we are going to expect in 2027. But for now, let's wish them well. The commission or the team that is selecting or the team that is selecting or interviewing them should be objective in their roles. They should not bring their friends on board. They should bring the most qualified Kenyan, and a Kenyan who can lead a commission. Remember, it's an independent commission. Thank you.
Oscar?
Thank you very much for hosting me, Ashim. And my take on this is simple. Public reputation, public trust on this institution has been a big challenge. Not just after the selection panel has settled on the commissioners, but even the autonomy of that particular selection panel. And that is where I think there are not only one case is in court, I think there are 2 cases in court. And you know, even from the start, we took a long time to establish this panel reason being of political bickering and politicization of this process. So the fact that the process is politicized, it brings a lot of challenges to perception of the outcome. Already, you know very well that people in opposition has also said that there's a problem with this particular system. So the public trust, the reputation of the process is already in danger. That one we can never run away from. The fact that there are challenges, there are court cases and all these things, and the reputation of any institution, so long as it's personalized or informalized, and the informal goes on so much as opposed to the formal. So it brings problem to the reputation of the entire process the way it is. Secondly, I realize that also this process has not really attracted many experts per se. Reason being, you know, for example, you have your reputation, you are doing your career, and you have a very good career in your life. Then you go into IBC, like for example, the Cherera 4, they went there for only 6 months, and their reputation was destroyed because of getting into this apoliticized institution. So many people of high expertise will shy away from getting into IBC because of the politicization of the processes and whatever happens there. You know, people who've had probably very good careers, wherever they were, the likes of Isaac Hassan when he became chairman of IBC. Today, if you see his face, you don't see the legal profession from him. You see the IBC that, you know, the late Chebukati, who was just buried, I think, 1 month ago. He died when his reputation was in tatters. Not because probably he was not a very professional career man in his legal profession that he practiced before, but he served as a chairman of IBC, which was a politicized institution, which whatever was carried at IBC was mostly stuff to do with informalization and localization of the bickering, political bickering that goes on in the country. And now, where we it's not even a Kenyan problem only. Mostly, it is even an African problem, where we don't really institutionalize our governance processes. Everything should be as per policies of the institution. But when we make the informal become so important and so vital, as opposed to the institutional framework, institutional policies, then it's like we're throwing chaff into everything else. So we throw away the institution, and we localize politics, and we personalize everything, and we informalize all the processes in governance, even including of the electoral commission. If you go back to what Kriegler had put in place, why did we end up with post-election violence in 2007? Have we ever gone back to that document to check and did everything as part of the letter, what Kriegler had suggested? Not really. And now the trust in this electoral process, in this electoral panel, from the choice of the panel to the person they're going to choose. Already, if the foundation has challenges, the building definitely will have challenges, and you know the opposition has really said that, okay, there's a problem, the people are going to be appointed, we don't agree.
Okay. But Doc, let me come back to you. Given that you've just heard what Oscar is talking about, it is true. We have seen professionals from doctors, lawyers, even chief magistrates who are appearing before, even former registrars are appearing before this particular panel. So why are they attracted to this particular institution with those numerous cases Oscar has just enumerated, that there are commissioners, former commissioners, who are not even living in the country right now? Others fled the country, others were reputations were, what Oscar is saying, are in tatters. Why then go seek this particular position?
I think first it is Kenyan, as a Kenyan, it is your right for any position that is on offer to apply if you think you are qualified, because the qualifications are set very clearly on the advert on who they are looking for. Number two, you'll realize that there are political interests that pushes who applies for such positions and who is shortlisted. For example, you realize that some of the people who have been asked to go and apply as a result of advice from either certain political wing or certain government officials. Meaning then, you cannot independently just apply and get this position. That has been a tricky thing in the process of appointing commissioners and any other independent officers in this country. So the challenge is that we must have someone who pushes us to secure that position. Meaning then, the president sometimes is subjected to balancing those equations, the interest of other quarters. And that's why you realize that some people who probably never wanted to apply has been forced, that you are asked, can you go and apply? We will look for this position for you, and you're going to address our interest. So the base of the number of people who have applied for the position is increased so that individual interest groups have an opportunity to have one of theirs in that commission. That could be one. Secondly, I mean, independent commissions in the country are best employees. They have much better packages than any other civil service jobs. As much as they are not very stable positions, they are not very reliable positions. But if all goes well and you complete your term, then that's a very good job as a career. And of course, you realize that some professionals will also want to experience such a task that is actually an uphill task to deliver. They are supposed to look at the electioneering process. They are supposed to conduct elections, both general elections, by-elections, and etc. They are supposed to review boundaries. Boundary review is a mandate of IEBC. They are supposed to look at issues related to voter registrations in preparations for elections. They are supposed to be providing accurate results, ensuring that there are accurate results in the process of elections. Accuracy in terms of significantly commissioners' results does not necessarily translate to the one they always announce at Bomas. It is from the polling station to the county level to all those data systems, and ensuring that there is accuracy in that particular data so that they are able to say, yes, this is what happens. And of course, they oversee the secretariat, because secretariat as an institution, these commissioners are executive, they hold executive offices, and they oversee the secretariat. As much as the secretariat conducts overall job in terms of ensuring that things work, the oversight role, ultimate responsibility lies with the commissioners. More so, we always know the chair. We know Kuvitu, you know Isaac Hassan, my namesake, you know, what is his name, Chebukati. So they are ultimately the people who are responsible for ensuring that electioneering processes in the country is addressed accurately, effectively, and efficiently. And therefore, I think people will want to experience that. I would have loved to go and apply for this position. Although I'm interested in politics, and therefore once you go into IEBC, the Constitution does not allow you to exit IEBC and vie for a seat like any other commissions or run any other position. This will subject you to stay out of election system for 5 years. You are not actually, after you exit, you are not actually allowed to vie for any seat until 5 years elapses, because you are conversant largely with the election process. You are likely to influence your colleagues whom you have left behind, and therefore the element of biasness will always come. So for transparency to happen, then it means then we must keep away, you must keep away from that process of being a candidate to be elected for a position. Therefore, there are various reasons as to why other people will apply. Others, they have no job, so they only want to have a job. And that's why you see them in the interviews. They're being interviewed. They have revised significantly, but this position requires a wider mindset. You may not find a question, professional question, that you will be asked, can you tell us this ABCD? No. the fact that it's anchored on politics, the questions that are set are to see whether your IQ, your sixth sense, can pick issues related to electoral process, and if you are able to balance the public, the authorities, and of course you as the politician and you as the Electoral Commission. Balancing is required in all situations. And that's why you see when we submit our nomination papers for positions, sometimes there will be a lot of fight. Sometimes we want people, you know, sometimes it looks like we do not understand our role, because you find people have been cleared for elections. Later, you are being told this particular person was not qualified.
Okay.
How comes that someone says you are not qualified and yet you have gone through a system? So it is all about the leakages that is within the system. It's all about authorities manipulating things at that particular time. So you as a commissioner, you are expected to hold your ground and ensure that nothing goes outside the procedures that are set and your mandate. And that way, I think we will have a better election. We don't foresee that at the moment.
Okay.
I don't think if we will ever achieve that because of the way we deal with our issues in recruiting who becomes what and what. Some of the people are already speculated that they are likely to be the commissioners.
Okay.
I mean, the interviews are going on, and we see on social media, we see on Bunge la Wananchi, we see on some discussions at the boardrooms or even at the hotels, people saying, this will be the commissioner, this will be the other one, this will be the chair. So these are things that gives people queries, or what do I call it? They give you a bit of mistrust among the, among the panelists, because it comes from them. It doesn't come outside. No one will ever want to speculate things until there's certain leakages, whether it is true or false, from someone who is closer to the system.
Meli, with that in mind, then how can we expect the next chair of IBC as well as the commissioners to be independent ahead of the polls?
If they stick to the constitution and do their constitutional mandate, in as much as the process is political, you remember this stagnated just because there are political parties that were not happy with the selection panel, and they were not happy, they want to be included. And therefore, most of these commissioners come in with political interest also. If we were to look at our constitution and the mandate it gives IEBC, much of the political manipulation, perhaps the appointees or the people who are seconding the commissioners who are doing interviews, their interest may not be, may not come out other than the appointment of their person. Because at the end of the day, it is Kenyans who will make a decision. Remember the transparency that was there in the last election, whereby you could even see the forms online. You could compare with what you had in the polling station, if it is that exactly what you have. So the only way they can do this is ensure that there is transparency. We should be able to see the results coming through from the polling stations all the way to the county tallying centers, all the way to the national, being as transparent as possible. And if possible, they should come up with tamper-proof systems. And that will exalt them, because if their bosses would expect them to do something, they'll just tell them, look at the system. The system, we cannot manipulate the system. You see, that is an easier way other than doing a crooked way. In as much as also Daktari here has said that the reasons why people apply for this seat, I think some having retired from other commissions, having retired from judiciary, having retired from the other jobs, they would want to come to a job that has a job security. you know, the commissioners cannot just be kicked or removed from office anytime without a proper procedure. They also looking at the hefty packs, as you see, you had some of the salaries those commissioners will be earning, perhaps they have never earned in the other jobs they were doing. So just like any other human being, you'd want something better than you did before, or something more, some are even looking for more challenging tasks. For example, the registrar of judiciary, Madam Ahmadi, perhaps she could say, I handled judiciary, can I try this other commission also? And finally, as we said, those people were, anyone who applied must not have run for election in the past 5 years, and at the same time should not have participated in any political in as much as running for election. For example, he shouldn't have been an agent of a certain political party at that time, because they look at the background. Those are some of the things that remove some people from the shortlisted list. So you have to be very careful in selecting someone, because if I were, for example, to pick, for example, Memusi, or the gentleman who was the agent of ODM to be the chair, it has already tainted the image of IEBC, because this man was seen officially having been an agent of ODM during the last election. So to help in transparency and that's why those criteria is used, and therefore we are expecting men of honest men, men who can, men and women who can be trusted with this country, especially when the moral fabric of this country is at its lowest. All the way from the top, you know what is going on currently in the country. So it shouldn't, we shouldn't have commissioners who have questionable character. It should be straight people, people who can be trusted to run a commission.
Okay. Oscar,
Abdulaziz, I just wanted
I
just wanted to correct my brother here in terms of the candidates who can apply for the commission.
Okay.
And he said if you have been an agent, or you have been you have vied for a position in the previous election, you are not eligible. No, I don't think if that is true, my brother. I think we have you must have hold a political office for you to be not eligible. Agent means you are Kenyan and you have been in that process, but does not necessarily makes you not impartial when it comes to appointing, or when it comes to becoming a commissioner of IEBC.
Okay.
Okay. Another thing also, I don't know if it is also true that if you run for political office in the last 5 years, you're not allowed to, because I think Chebukati had run for...
You see, but he lost.
No, that's allowed.
Yes,
You must have hold a political office. That's the point.
Okay.
Yes.
That's nice. Anyway, my question is, my issue with this one is, from whatever this panelists, my colleagues have discussed, the question is the IEBC able to safeguard its own independence, right? He said that the people whom we are expecting to have should be not of questionable character, not of people who can be accountable to the people. You know, we've had Chris Busando here, moving from one TV station to the other in the morning, and trying to show how the process and the procedure of the voting, respect of our vote, is it will be independent and it is tamper-proof. You get me right? And you know the story of Chris Musando, how it ended. The same week we had also Akombe, who had to run out of the country because of trying to be accountable, trying to do the right thing. And now we also had the Cherera 4 against Chebukati 3. And it was challenges of credibility of the process. And we ended up with chaos all over. And how Isaac Hassan was hounded out of office. Again, some things that moves around the credibility of the thing. And you know, most routinely, the opposition parties, the parties that are out of government, have a routine behavior of undermining the credibility of the Electoral Commission all the time. Be it ODM in opposition, be it Kalonzo Musyoka now in opposition, be it Martha Karua now in opposition, everywhere. And this is not Kenya. This happens with Julius Malema in South Africa, every time the opposition, people in opposition, always attempt to undermine the credibility of the electoral body. So the problem is that the stakeholders, for any project to work, the stakeholders must be willing to help it work. But in our case, the IBC, the stakeholders are not mostly interested to help it work. Because, for example, how do we bring it everybody to accept the processes that we're dealing with? There's always a chaff being thrown to the process, and it undermines the credibility of the process. And when it undermines the credibility of the process, the public perception, because IBC has suffered from negative public perception and lack of trust as an institution. The other institutions which have also suffered public perception, for example, you know very well, even our judicial system, sometimes Kenyans prefer to seek alternative judicial mechanisms as opposed to using the courts, because sometimes they fear the judges who are sitting there can be bribed by people whom they have litigants. So they don't trust the process, and this is happening with our electoral process. So the main important thing is to have a system where people accept, and people, if they accept the panel and accept the body that is elected and accept the eventually they will accept the outcomes of these elections. But as it goes now, already the opposition has already undermined the credibility of the process. Some people are in court because of the process. So we might not still end up with whatever we are expecting because of unprofessionalism. And again, what I said and I repeat, that African systems, we still suffer from, I think we suffer from decolonization legacies, where most of we really believe that our security is in the community, our security is in the ethnic group, so that every person who even sits in the IBC, we want to see ourselves inside that position, which doesn't really help the whole process. So we don't really want expertise as a people. Does the stakeholder, the Kenyan voter, expect any expert to work as IBC commissioner? No. They expect one of their own to be there, and that is the person they believe will safeguard their interests. And that might not safeguard the interest of meritocracy. So, and in all institutions, for example, I will tell you, the PSS that were appointed, I think, 2 weeks ago, they were public, the public governance minister, I think, announced position for PSS. And people applied, and they were shortlisted. But the people who were appointed are not outcome of the shortlist of the people who were shortlisted and gazetted, actually, I think so. So you see, that is already a process. And it was a political process because of now, for example, the broad-based government, they're coming up with PSS. But there are Kenyans who applied, were shortlisted, their names appeared in local dailies as the people who had been shortlisted. But the outcome of when the appointment comes, there are people who are not shortlisted. But you know, they're going for interviews again. They should not even be allowed to participate in the interviews because you didn't apply. You're not shortlisted. Yes, you've been appointed by the president, and that is the appointing authority anyway. So the structure and the institutionalizing of everything is not being adhered to, and it brings problems to the entire process. And that is also the problem with the IBC.
Okay, talking about credibility, Daktari, quickly, integrity issues have been a bone of contention since this interview started, from the 11 chair nominees who appeared before this election panel, even the 105 who are currently appearing before this election panel. We witnessed there are some who have court cases, others are being investigated by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, others are being followed by DCI, others are being even followed due to their education credibility. So at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? Because in terms of credibility, we're trying to restore the faith within the commission. So will this hamper the trust deficit within the IEBC?
Definitely, issues of trust is an issue at the moment. And I think it is good to understand that if you are having a case at court, you have not been proved guilty. And therefore, I mean, you are not exempted not to participate in any employment process until it is proved.
It's a challenge of credibility.
I mean, the issue of challenge of credibility is when you are challenged, there are panelists who are interviewing you. And these panelists' role are to balance whether those credibilities or those issues being raised will hamper the credibility of individuals. But it does not bar him not to be interviewed or not to be employed. Now, number two, we have also the issue of speculations, where people will want to just tint your image simply because you have shown interest in a position, and people will want to spoil for you, because we have seen that in several cases in Kenyan system. We have also seen institutions who can give you documentations which are genuine. You have your documents very well, but because of political interest, or you are not conforming to certain institutional requirement, people will deregister you from the institution. For example, someone will tell you, we have been, you know, when you go to politics, you'll experience a lot of things. We have been given, associated with a lot of women. People bring you on your images, your pictures, and you, because of politics, and those are done by your opponents. People you have worked with for institutions of higher learning, you have worked for the government, Ministry of Health, or any other ministry, and all of a sudden, because you have shown interest in having a position in politics, people will say you are not qualified, your papers are fake. So this has been also a system that has rotten, where individuals can say anything to you, because our constitution says freedom of speech. But sometimes this freedom of speech is interpreted wrongly, because if you start tainting people's images just because you want them to lose, or you don't want them to pick up a position they are looking for, then that also happens. But again, let's look at issues of credibility versus issues that you are being subjected to. For example, why are these people, some of them were holding offices. They have never been questioned in terms of their credibility. But when they came to IEBC Commission to come and ask for commissioner's position, all those things come out. So I think there is a leakage in terms of information sharing. There is a leakage of questioning. It is the mandate of institutions that look at credibility of individuals within the system that proves that indeed this one we have an issue. But when an individual writes, because most of the cases are people who are writing to the commission saying that so and so, yes, petitioners, who are saying so and so has an issue. But this is not their mandate actually.
It's their right.
It is their right, but it's not their mandate. Mandate means there are people who are mandated to do that work so that they can proceed in taking action in terms of the accusations and the claim. Again, our law says that unless until proven otherwise, you are not guilty, and we remain impartial in terms of submitting yourself, in terms of submitting yourself for any position that is on offer.
Okay. Meli, I'm coming to let Oscar respond.
I just wanted to add something small. You know, we keep on changing the commission, but we don't really change the secretariat, which most of people who work in the secretariat are permanent and pensionable.
Not all of them.
Not all. Some of them. Some of them have had to manage elections for 10 or for 3 consecutive elections, for example. And you see, okay, it is good for the historical memory when you are building a new commission, but technically, the people who come as commissioners, they don't technically manage the day-to-day operation of electioneering.
It's the work of the administrators.
So when we try to reform the electoral commission or the electoral process on Kenya, we should also rethink of the secretariat, because we've had people doing the same jobs all around every time. And we've had a problem with management of our election process. You know, the election process that we talk about, I'm not talking about, we think of in terms of the presidential election, which from what Meli was saying, that the National Tallying Center, you know, it is even illegal to have a National Tallying Center. We don't have such a thing like in Bomas. It was a creation of Chebukati, who went and gazetted Bomas of Kenya as a polling station. It is illegal. The election, according to the 2013 Supreme Court judgment, the election ends at the polling station, where the vote is cast, the election ends there. That is where we're supposed to declare the president. So at that level, even the media should be allowed, can be allowed to tally and get to know, because the election has ended. It doesn't matter whatever happens at Bomas of Kenya. What is the end of the election, the polling station, the results that come out of that system? Anybody should be able to be allowed at that level to tally and tell us who won. Maybe not declaring, but anybody can tell us. The media can tell us that from Sia County, Ruto got this, and Ashim got this. From Garissa County, Oscar got this, and this got. And in our tally, so and so. See, like in the US election, what happens is it is normally declared by the media, because they can see that if he wins, they can always declare that if he wins Pennsylvania or wins Texas, for example, he takes it. You are able to declare that one. So when we want to understand the entire infrastructure, I think for us to get, even to allow the commissioners to work, sometimes, even in football, if you hire a coach, you always allow them to bring in the technical people who help them do the work. But if you hire the coach and keep your own technical, the assistant coach, and keep the doctors and keep everything around, you might not come with the outcome that is expected outcome. So I think that as much as we are trying to reform the electoral, so that it gets credibility that I was discussing, the trust that the Kenyan, so that it doesn't have those political things, allow them to work, for example. And that is the question that I ask. Is the IBC able to safeguard its independence? Okay. But so long as the political interference, things like insufficient funds, sometimes we give them insufficient funds, the structural problems within the system, which I am talking about, the operationalizing of day-to-day running of the commission. Again, another thing that I've noticed with this recruitment, I don't know why somebody like, for example, Nechai, whom I thought had taken it easy and retired, come back to manage our commission.
He was serving as a judge.
I don't know why he served as a judge. I agree. I completely agree. But he's been given a lot of chances and he's done his best. I don't know why somebody like Maraga, who has served as a CJ and is in retirement, will want to come and run for president, for example. And there are many of them who are coming like that. Somebody like Amadi, yes, has been given a chance to work as a registrar. You know, at some level, I always feel that you should take it easy. Like, I've served as the Chief Justice of the country. And I've retired, and I'm in retirement, I'm peaceful in the village, and I'm overseeing my grandchildren. Coming back to this again sometimes might only, but it's now common because we just have the common names now. So the same people we are recycling, same problem, because new ideas. For example, now, running of the country. I think Maraga, and having worked under the system of President Moi and all this, and the years spent, with the technological industrialization and the AI of today, he might not be able to grasp and move as fast. And even in the electoral commission, if we recycle people and get people from retirement to manage our electoral system, we might
Meli, in terms of independence, even the candidates who are coming before the IBC selection panel are being asked, in terms of to entrench independence within the IBC itself, is to come up with the IBC fund. Will that work?
The IBC fund, you'd see IBC every electioneering year is begging. It's asking, today we need this, tomorrow we need this. They should be able to project by the time we get to 2027, we need this much to have spent this much. In the financial year 2025-2026, we need this for the budget. We need that. But it cannot function without the commissioners in place. Even though, if you look at the secretariat itself, where it's headed by the CEO, Hussein Marjan Hussein, or Marjan Hussein Marjan, he has 2 deputies in that sector, 9 directors, 24 managers, and 47 county managers, 290 constituency coordinator. So it is already constituted, but it cannot function without the commissioners in place. Dr. Ria was talking about, actually Oscar was talking about the allegations. In as much as there are allegations against you, that are coming, and your independence is somehow the proof of guilt is in the courts. If he has not been proven guilty. Even if you read chapter 6 and continue reading and reading,
credibility is not proved by court.
The credibility has not been proven by the courts of law and said Melly cannot run because of 1, 2, 3, 4. You cannot stop that person from running from for this position. Remember, Kenyans, sometimes you have people who are just malicious, who would want to finish you. And they can come up with as much, including AI-generated videos and AI-generated photos of you in bed somewhere.
So, perception.
Quickly
So,
finish in 30 seconds
for
because
them,
we need to take a break.
as we say, perhaps the bombers is not legal. It was a way of the commission showing some transparency so that you all see what they are doing. Imagine if whatever was done in 2022 was done in a closed room, and then the Cherera go to wherever they are going, and the commissioner appeared, the chairman appeared alone, or with the 3 commissioners, for example. Something would have happened in this country that would have gone wrong, kabisa. So it was good for them to show us what they are doing. And that is why even at the constituency level, you find tallying center also there, because they receive from the constituencies. At the constituency, there is also tallying going on, so that people can receive. Sometimes this news of losing an election sometimes is shocking. You can even go get a heart attack when you hear results all of a sudden. You should know I got 0 there, I got 13 there, I got this in this area, and it prepares you psychologically. Kenyans also are prepared psychologically by looking at the results.
Okay, Sami, we need to pay some bills. We'll be coming back with your final remarks there. And quickly, we're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, our guests here will be concluding their thoughts also in the presidential visit to the Mount Kenya region and some of the grassroots elections that are being carried on. And of course, in the second hour, we'll be focusing as well as on role of nutrition and dietitians in the healthcare system. Our guests are already in studio, so don't go too far.